that. Now, we have less than 4 months to 2024 general elections, and political parties are putting out their manifesto seeking to buy in your vote with their policies. Well, the Ghana Institution of Engineering, they also have some recommendations for political parties as they look forward to the election. And we'll be delving into that this morning as we have in the studio the president-elect of the Ghana Institution of Engineering. He is Ludwig Hesse, and also Engineer Joseph Ode. He is the immediate past Civil Division Chair of the Ghana Institution of Engineering. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you.
Here on Newsdesk. Now, before we get into your recommendation, which I've been going through, one key issue we always face, especially in Greater Accra region, are floods. And so I'm thinking, as an institution, what are your recommendations to political parties? What key policy can they put in place in their manifesto that can help us address this issue?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, flooding is an issue in Accra here and in other places in the country. We currently hear that the north is getting flooded also for different reasons.
Yeah.
But yes, we need to put in flood attenuation programs. There are ongoing programs. There's a GhIE program going on already, and it appears to have all the elements of what needs to be done. We've left a lot of things too late because one of the key things is there are places which are prone to flooding, and they should be led as flood plains so that water can be retained, so that they are released gradually so that you don't flood the bigger places, the city center and things like that. But unfortunately, we have developed a lot of those places. But still, this program is trying to salvage what is left and leave those places. And our prayer is that these programs get implemented the way they've been designed. The other thing is we are too quick to line big drains, especially when they are on the upstream. The more lining you put into drains, the faster the water travels, then it gets into a door and floods Accra. The other thing is that we are also paving too much our houses. It's urban development. We are supposed to leave green spaces in our environment, in our houses and things, so our water will go into the ground and charge our aquifers. But now somebody builds a house and he puts terrazzo in his house. And the water falls from the roof onto the terrazzo and straight onto the street. And that comes straight to Odo or Peshi or anything and floods the place. And it's just because somebody is not enforcing the regulations on how you should develop your whole home. You cannot build a home and put terrazzo on every space in your house. No, it's against the law.
And that's the job of the district assembly.
That's the job of the district assemblies. And if they are getting these things done properly and getting people to just respect the zoning regulations, then we are carrying off less water. Some of the water. Now, the other way is also rain harvesting. If people can harvest some of the rain that falls on their roof and put it into the tanks in their houses, again, it's part of the flood attenuation processes. So it's not everything about building drains. In fact, most of the time when you build drains, you are making the water carriage more efficient. And when you make it more efficient, that means it's going downstream where there's not adequate capacity to flood. So the district assemblies and the government system should ensure that these things happen. And there's no two ways about that. The rains will continue to fall, and the water will be carried if we don't store them, if we don't allow it to go into the ground, and it will flood. And we can throw a lot of money at these things, but if we don't do all the small pieces, put them together, then the people at the downstream end will continue to suffer.
Another key concern I have is with the sighting of our buildings. As a pedestrian, each time I have to compete with the vehicles because I'm walking on the shoulders of the road because somebody has built a shop on pedestrian walkway. How do you propose government implement policies to fix some of these concerns?
Yes, in fact, this is also one of the issues we did discuss during our manifesto series. We're talking about how to manage urban spaces. So it all boils down to the assemblies who are the custodians of development. We believe that we need to enforce some of these things to ensure that there are enough space, or we provide spaces that will promote livelihood. You know, for example, you saying you're walking, you should be able to walk freely without any such interventions, right? So this is one of the recommendations we are giving to the political parties, that they should resource the assemblies very well with technical capacities and capabilities so that they can also enforce these plans that they have in place for various areas to ensure that people, transport, they don't have these kind of unnecessary interactions, to ensure smooth sailing of programs and effectiveness of our societies.
Well, but is it the case that there's lack of resources to help them enforce some of these measures? Or is it a case that they're complicit?
Well, the lack of resource probably may not necessarily be money, but we're also talking about the technical resource. Yeah, that's what we are interested in. And also, because the law gives the assemblies the power to ensure that there are proper development in various areas, they should be pushed to do the right thing. They should ensure that they enforce what is needed. And therefore, we still go back to the assemblies, encourage them, or telling them that, look, this is your mandate, let it happen.
Wow. So I'm looking through the proposals you're making to the political parties as we speak. And one key proposal you are making is the enforcement of approved plans, zoning regulation, and sanction violation of the planning regulation with landowners selling land in accordance with the zoning plans. Expatiate on that for me.
Well, probably that's the fundamental of all those things. Urban development starts with a plan. Unfortunately, in that situation, a lot of development starts without a plan, without approved plan. But if there's an approved plan, then somebody has taken the city, subdivided into various uses that the land can be used to. And this is brought to the assembly and it's approved as a development plan, as a zoning plan, as a scheme that anybody who wants to develop beyond that will have to follow. Now, so the first responsibility of the assembly is to ensure that when it says that this place, you can build a church there, so nobody goes to build a market. If it says that this place is for housing, nobody goes to build a factory there. So when you talk about zoning, when we say this is a green area, a park, nobody goes there to build a church. You see, so when you've zoned a place, that this place is a green area, or this place is a flood prone, it's a flood zone, it's a place that water will collect, as a place where you want it to be remain as a swamp. You design cities with all this in mind, and when you zone them for it, we should not allow people in the name of development to flout these things. And that's the first role of the assembly. And so the assembly should feel empowered to retain these things and enforce the zoning regulations. That's the first thing.
We have existing zoning regulations.
We do.
But the challenge now is with enforcement. Enforcement
is one of the key areas. So the capacity of the assemblies to enforce must be enhanced. Because if we don't enhance it, then it's not just having the police abaye, but we are also looking at the technicalities involved. Who are the technical people who are thinking through the processes before we go to enforce? And if we have to go to the courts, will the courts support the proper enforcement of these things? Sometimes we allow these things to get out of hand. And then when they get out of hand and you go, then it's like you are competing against people's livelihood. And it's like Galam say, when you appear to enforce and your enforcement is against people's livelihood, then the people, if they have numbers, they have adequate numbers, they rise up and resist. And then the politicians being who they are, and because they want votes, then they tend to treat this with kid gloves. And then our systems break down. So one of the key things is that when we do these things, we should not allow things to fester before we try to come and clean. When it festers and you try to clean, the surgery is too painful. And when it's painful, people are likely to cry. And if you are affected by whipping of a child, you stop treating the infested heel, and then we die more.
Yeah. Fair point.
Yeah. Even to add to what you just said, that we want the public to know that buying land or acquiring land does not necessarily mean you can do anything that you want. It has to go through an approval process. So you can decide to buy a land and say you want to put up a church, but in terms of the spatial planning, maybe the place that you bought the land, it's not an approved place to put a church. But the challenge we have now, you see, development goes ahead of this kind of, before the assembly realizes somebody has put a church there, stop work, that kind of thing. I think we need to be serious a bit to have a very well-functional society.
You also make mention of the fact that you're proposing that some of the political parties consider in their manifesto, for example, investing into mass transport systems with the aim of contributing to up to 80% of all person trips in urban centers in the country. And you say this should also include the development and operation of a bus rapid transit system. How would this system work?
Well, okay. What you quoted at the first part, which talks about 80% person trips and things like that, actually is a quotation from the transport policy of Ghana, which was launched in 2020.
Wow, so it's in existence?
The transport policy is in existence. This statement that we should invest into public transport that carries up to 80% of all person trips in our cities is a quotation from the policy document of government. And I've worked in the government system on these issues before. And it was in the 2006 policy. It was in the 2010 policy. It was in the 2016 policy. It's in the 2020 policy. Yet we do nothing about it.
So it's all talk and no action. And this begs the question about what do we do now?
Yeah, yes, the point is that, again, it's as if it's not as though nothing has happened. Again, in 2008 to 2016 or so, we decided as a country to invest into this. So there was an urban transport project. I happened to work under that project. And then I left a little earlier. But the output changed completely from what we started with. And then we came with the Ayalolo idea. And this is Ghana. The whole Ayalolo thing with GhIE, Greater Accra Passenger Transport Executive, the institutional processes were all put in place. But we just messed it up. We decided that we're going to buy 2,400 buses instead of 80 buses. We came to put the buses there, and we did some few priority links for buses to go through. Then we allowed the traders to go and trade on those spaces and the trotros to block it. And the whole Ayalolo system didn't work. It collapsed. And meanwhile, the BRT system, which is well thought out, is that provide large buses a reserved lane to drive on, and nobody else should share that lane with them. They carry them, that's what's called mass transport. They carry the masses of the people. Majority of the people, they will go on the main route, like from Accra to Adenta or from Accra to Kasua. You have these buses running on reserved lanes, like a railway line for them, and they run to and fro, and they have their stops where they stop and people can pick them, and they carry the mass of the people. So if you decide to drive in your car and stay on the other lanes, and you are in congestion, it's your business, but the buses will run faster. And that's why it's called a bus rapid transit system. And then it comes with all the other additional things like the ticketing system, which is like how you buy ticket to leave and enter a train, how you board. You can bring your platform of boarding at the same level as the bus so that you roll in and out. People on wheelchairs can roll in and out. So that boarding is efficient and all those things. And these systems are operating in other places.
Okay.
Look, in Ghana, in Accra, more than this 80% we are talking about probably is happening already, because the trotros and the taxis and all the other things we have is carrying this number of people. But they are doing it so efficiently because you are using small buses, you are using taxis,
so we
and
should
we are
expand
clogging
the system. And so that's very key for me. As we wrap up the conversation, I'm being told we're running out of time. Some of these concerns you have raised and some of these policy proposals, have you given it directly to the political parties so that we can get some commitment moving forward? I'll wrap up with you.
Yes, we have. In fact, before we did our program, we've already, it's a whole document, we've given it to the political parties to look at it and then tie it up to their, manifestos. So we have, yeah.
Thank you so much for your time here on News 6.
Too.
My producers say you have to come back because this conversation is one that would like to expand upon. Now